All right. Welcome to the last day of the Data Reuse Days 2025. I'm Ifra. I'm a product manager here at Wikimedia Germany. And we have around 2 hours planned today. We're going to start the session with watching a pre-recorded video by Ray talking about Wikidata's role in open library author pages. Then we're going to talk about data round-tripping with authority files. Then we're going to have a small closing session, and then we're going to end the Data Reuse Days by playing some really fun games together. And just again, as a note, that the Q&A is going to be always at the end of the session, even when the video, if there's a pre-recorded video. Ray's in the room, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to answer your questions. And without further ado, I would say we can watch the video.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my presentation, 169,000 Reasons to Care, Wikidata's role in open library author pages. This presentation is for the Wikidata Data Reuse Days 2025. My name is Ray Berger. I am a volunteer at Open Library, so not a staff member. Just do this as a hobby. And I'm the co-founder of urbanismnow.com, a weekly urbanism newsletter to inspire local change where you are through global news. So, short overview of what we're going to go through. The problem, we had empty-ish author pages. The solution we're going to use is Wikidata to augment the pages, and then I'll walk through how we did it in terms of the really technical implementation, the next steps we'd like to do, and how you can help out with those. First, what is Open Library? Well, it's a digital library. It's legally registered in California, and through it you can borrow millions of books. There's a process called controlled digital lending that allows you to read scans that the Internet Archive has of physical books they own. And it's a project by the Internet Archive, which you may know is the creators of the Wayback Machine and many other wonderful projects. So the goal of Open Library, as stated on the website, is to have one page for every book ever published. And these pages are editable by the community, much like Wikipedia and Wikidata. Open Library is also a wonderful community with lots of volunteers and very dedicated staff members, and just a great place to spend your time. It also has some social features similar to Goodreads or Storygraph, such as want to read, ratings, reviews, and the ability to follow users if they make their profiles public. So kind of the problem that we're solving with our Wikidata integration, in my view, is bare author pages. Here you can see an example of a random author page. There's not much here, and anecdotally, I think author pages tend to get less attention than the book pages on Open Library. Of course, it's a library, not like an author catalog. And there's also lots of duplicates of authors, and these are merged and take a lot of work to make sure they're not conflated, where two authors with the same name accidentally are merged into one record. And another thing that we're doing with this is we thought it would be a great first step for broader Wikidata integrations, because the author page is relatively isolated, relatively simple, and yeah. So the solution, as you already know, we want to spruce them up with Wikidata, and this works great for us because there's already 169,000 authors in our database with Wikidata IDs. I think some of them were added there by bots at some point. Many were surely added by people, including myself. So we just need to pull the information from Wikidata and display it. So jump to the conclusion. The result is something that looks like this. On the right, you can see we have like the short description being pulled from Wikidata. We have language-aware Wikipedia links, which is awesome, and Wikidata link, and there would be a Google Scholar link if Cory Doctorow had such a profile. The longer description you see in the middle is something that we have already on Open Library, so that's not a new thing. So let's talk about how we did this integration. This is the more technical aspect of the presentation. So I'm going to frame this in terms of some contrasts or like decisions. They weren't always decisions highly discussed. Some of them were more implicit, but this kind of talks about our thought process and how we set up our integration. So to integrate the data or keep it separate, we could have extracted fields such as the date of birth or the Wikipedia link or any of the fields really, and just added them to our existing author record. This has some downsides, including keeping the data in sync, because we're going to need to deal with merge conflicts and whether we're sending data to Wikidata or not. And also the librarian experience can become more complicated if there have fields being overwritten by Wikidata that they added, and if we want to make a way for those fields to not be overwritten if a librarian indicates it, etc. So the kind of theme throughout this part of the presentation is that we're keeping it simple. So we keep them separate. There's no issue of keeping the data in sync, and there's time to figure out a better librarian experience. The next one is to cache or not to cache. Okay, maybe that's a little extreme. We could load data on the client side or cache it in memory. And actually the very first MVP of this was just loading the data client side in Bookmarklet or browser extension. And both of these have the downside of being a noisy neighbor, making much more requests to Wikidata than is strictly necessary. And the major downside for the future is that it really limits our ability to query the data, which I think is something that we would like to do to improve our search, for example. So our decision was to store it in Postgres. Another benefit of this, aside from it being faster because it's already in our system, is that we can export it in our data dumps. So if someone wants to see the Wikidata information that we're showing along with the rest of the author information we have, it's easier for them to get instead of having to query Wikidata directly. Another question was, do we do a partial cache or a full cache? And we briefly considered only keeping the fields that we use. The downside is that we don't know all the fields that we want to use upfront. And if someone wants to add a new feature, it will require refetching the fields and also having a lot of logic in terms of how we extract and transform the fields and well, what happens if something changes on the Wikidata schema and we need to keep all that in sync. Of course, those problems can still apply when you're doing a full cache, but it's a little bit less of a problem because we're just changing how we fetch the data and not having to how we get the data from the cache rather than what we pull from. Anyway, our decision was to store the full item. Again, keep it simple, and Wikidata entries, I mean, based on my experience, they're rarely large for authors, not usually more than like a dozen statements or so. So it's not like a huge amount of data to store, especially for an organization like the Internet Archive. So what data to display was another question, and kind of talked about this earlier. We decided to keep it really simple with very uncontroversial fields that no one could really disagree with was the idea. So the Wikipedia link, and this was where the big value add was for our patrons off the bat, was that the Wikipedia link would become language aware. So if you're browsing the Spanish version of the site, we'll show you the Spanish Wikipedia link if it exists. Otherwise, we will default to the English one. So this was a big win, especially we had lots of broken Wikipedia links added to authors. So this was a new capability we have from the Wikidata integration. We also show the Wikidata link because that's where people should go to edit this information. Google Scholar, because that one's kind of recognizable on relatively few authors. It's focused on academics. And the short description, which you see here, just a nice additional information, which will hopefully be used in the future for other parts of the site. But right now it's only on this page. And there's maybe some tension, maybe a bit more theoretical tension than actual tension about how or which social media platforms to show. There are some very local, like regional social media platforms that would be very relevant for authors in certain parts of the world. And how do we decide, find those and decide which to show? Should we be promoting decentralized social media platforms that are more aligned with Open Library and the Internet Archive? Should we show the biggest, most popular ones that are most likely to be used by the authors? Well, in any case, we're not showing any of them right now. And I think the current general thinking is that we should basically show all of them and show them in a simple, searchable way. And then we'll have some data about which ones are used and maybe decide a little bit later on ordering them differently or make it user customizable, which would be ideal. So we have this data, we're ready to display it, we have our MVP working, and we want something out there useful ASAP so we can get feedback from librarians without just showing them mock-ups and see if patrons have anything to say. So here's how we did it. So we are fetching the data from the Wikidata API and only doing this under certain conditions. So if a patron, who's someone who's logged in, visits the edit page of an author, we fetch the Wikidata. If a librarian visits the view page of an author, just the general view page, we fetch the Wikidata if it's missing. And if anyone visits an author view page, we refetch the Wikidata if it's older than 30 days. So in this case, we have a rather minor subset of users and limited traffic that will be generating these requests to Wikidata, but still accessible to everyone in some way or form, and worked out pretty well. It enabled us to get some early feedback and people say, yeah, we like this is great. So then we had to decide, okay, there's 169,000 authors. We've loaded like a few hundred of them. How are we going to load the rest? We considered using the authors or the Wikidata data dump, which at least the most recent I could find, it was sized at about 130 gigabytes. And if you average that out, that's about a little bit, well, that's a decent size of data, more than I have free space on my machine. So it was a substantial effort for a one-off task to download, figure out how to parse those, and figure out how we will put them into Open Library. Well, I considered fixing my slide with this to-do on it, but you already see it. So we ultimately, I made a script to just call the edit page with my cookie as a librarian. Actually, it was the view page. That's what I wanted to fix. And I figured out if we run into issues, we'll figure out how to work with the data dump. But lo and behold, in like a day or so, it actually went through all of the authors with Wikidata IDs and added them. And so we don't have to deal with the data dump and save a bunch of time and effort reviewing that and trying to find space on my machine. So what's next? Well, we have some ideas for the future. We would like to improve the author pages, add birth date, death date, more IDs, links to social networks. It would be great to add photos from Wikipedia Commons. These could be done in the short term. Many of them are a bit complicated by having to make a reasonable librarian experience, understanding when Open Libraries data should take precedence over the Wikidata information and showing off librarians, oh, this data is from Wikidata. We don't have anything from Open Library. So little bit of work there. We'd also like to make a map of authors. Like if you have a list on Open Library, show the authors on the map, or if you have your want to read, or maybe even like a search query with a few hundred books, we could show the authors on the map, encourage people to just see where they're reading, where people are from. It could be fun. We might do this as a fellowship project. It's nice and isolated, and lots of cool mapping technologies and tools have come out in the past couple of years to make that easier to do, I think. We'd also like to integrate with books and series. This is longer term, a bit more difficult. Our data for books can be not always so clearly mapped to Wikidata, where we have like works and editions, and sometimes you want to show a specific edition of a work, aka a book, and sometimes there's bundles of books. So this will require a decent amount of effort and would be a more serious undertaking. Another thing is we'd like to add more Wikidata IDs to Open Library. So I made a very brief tool called, well, it doesn't really have a name. It's Open Library Wikidata Matcher. And it's at this very long URL. Basically what it does is it shows humans without Open Library IDs, but that have LibriVox or Goodreads or Storygraph or etc. other IDs. So you can go open them, see if there's a author in Open Library that matches, and add the ID. I would also like to add a leaderboard to this in the future, so encourage people to have a little fun picking a category and trying to bring down the number of unmatched authors. Also the ability to say, oh, this actually isn't an author in Open Library for XYZ reason, so we'll hide it. If you want to go to this URL, you can just go to the first part, /one pagers, and there should be like a little index page there. So to wrap this up, a huge thank you, especially to Drini, who was the staff member of Open Library that worked with me on this and spent countless hours digging through the implementation details and reviewing code and helping gather community feedback. Also, thank you, Max, Scott, Jim, and the rest of the folks at the Internet Archive and Open Library who have made this possible and made this wonderful project stay alive. Open Library is a really great community. It's been a wonderful hobby for me. Such a friendly, welcoming group. If you're interested in volunteering, GitHub and Slack are kind of the two ways to go. You can just jump on GitHub and look at Good First Issues. There's also this volunteer page you can fill out to get an invite to the Slack where most communication happens. There's also a Wikidata label on GitHub if you want to work on something specific to Wikidata. There's a few old issues there. Perhaps I will be able to make a few new ones before this presentation is seen. So yeah, thank you so much for your attention. You can get in touch with me anywhere, Blue Sky, Mastodon, etc. You'll find me. Check out my Urbanism newsletter if you're interested, urbanismnow.com, and openlibrary.org/volunteer to get involved. If you're watching this during the conference, hopefully I will be there to talk after this recording is played, but I also think that we will try to have Mech or Drini or an Open Library staff member there as well for questions. So thank you for watching and enjoy.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And we did make it to the call, and there's other people from Open Library who are also here. So I would say very great opportunity to speak with them or ask them questions, or like I say, always sing their praises. We have like 5 minutes or so before the break and the next session. So please feel free to raise your hand and ask the question, or if you don't feel like talking, just write it in the chat and I'll be happy to read it out for you. If no one's asking, I'm going to ask like a general question while people think. From the list that you wrote out about future ideas, have you already started on something? Or is there something else that you've already started on to build up on the work that you've done before? We can hear you.
Oh, you
just want to...
You can hear me?
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Okay, there's a UI glitch. It says I'm still muted. But in terms of the projects, we haven't started on any of the ones listed there. I think kind of one of the small ones was we had some Wikipedia links that we converted to Wikidata IDs so they could be language aware. Also, many of those links, like hundreds of them, had turned into disambiguation pages, which are not very helpful for folks. So manually doing that. And I think in the near future, the one about doing the map, we are considering that as a fellowship opportunity, which basically means someone will do kind of like a volunteer internship with a bit more of a commitment that they'll be spending time, and we'll do some calls with them. But yeah, as far as I know, maybe Drini, if you know, we haven't done any other Wikidata related things so far.
Yeah, I can add in there real quick. Yeah, the mapping is the one that I'm personally most excited about, because I know that's something that a lot of readers want to do right now, is get a better understanding of the world by like having challenges and wanting to read a book from every country in Europe or in Africa or something like that. And there's no place online where you can kind of get that data in an easy way to digest. So being able to get that from Open Library would be phenomenal. One other place where we do use Wikidata right now is for our reading stats feed. So that's where somebody who has kept track of the books they've read on Open Library can see, for example, using Wikidata statistics, how many books are by men, how many of the books they've read are by men versus women, how many books are coming from which country, and things like that, to get a better idea of where the voices they're hearing from are coming, to see if they have any potential holes in their world.
That's really cool. That sounds really, really amazing. And as a book nerd, very, very exciting. Okay, there's a question in the chat. I'm just going to read it out loud, also for the recording. Have you considered a tool, or does it exist, which would make it possible to upload to Wikidata and Open Library at the same time? I'm a user of both, but right now it's somewhat annoying to add to both. And thanks for making Open Library possible and the integration.
Oh, now we can't hear you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The sad but true answer to your question is no. We don't have a tool like that. That would be useful. We kind of have these two big data sets across Wikidata and Open Library. Another one of our contributors, Steph, has been working on letting us synchronize author identifiers between the two, so that if we have a record that exists on Wikidata and a record that exists on Open Library for an author, we can synchronize the identifiers across both. But for book information or books themselves, we don't have anything like that right now.
Right. Are there any other pressing questions? Because we're at time, but if there's something really pressing someone needs answered, you can ask now. Okay. I'm going to then say a huge thank you to Raymond and to Drini for answering the questions and for obviously having the presentation put together. Let's take a short break for 5 minutes or so, then meet back at past to hear from Camilo about data round tripping with authority piles. See you all in 4 minutes. Thanks, both. We're back. I think I'm going to let people have 30 seconds or so to kind of come back into the room.
Perfect.
Okay, while people are also coming in, same spiel as always. The sessions are recorded, and if you don't want to be in the recording, please keep your videos turned off and your microphones muted. And if you have any questions for the presenter, please wait until the end of their presentation. You can always write them in the chat, and we can grab them later and then talk them through. Yeah, and we can start the recording now. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Camilo.
Thanks. So I share my screen.
We can't hear you. I don't know if it's just me.
Yeah. So you hear me?
Can someone else give a shout in the chat if they can hear? Okay, then it's me.
Okay, so you can hear me. And great. So thanks for having me. And my presentation deals with data round tripping with authority files. And specifically, I've also just uploaded the slides on Commons and linked them from the page of the event. So I have these 4 chapters: data reuse and data round tripping, types of mistakes, what to report, some examples, and finally the conclusions. So first of all, data reuse and data round tripping. What is data round tripping? This is explained in a Wikidata page that was created after Data Quality Days in 2022. Basically, it's the reciprocal synchronization of data between Wikidata and the external databases to which it links. And specifically, we talk about data round tripping with a focus on, okay, we on Wikidata, we find some errors. These errors sometimes in Wikidata depend from external databases, have been imported from external databases. And when we correct these errors in Wikidata, we desire to correct them also in external databases to avoid re-importing them, etc. Okay, so effectively, this event is about data reuse. And effectively, data round tripping is more of an issue of data quality, but the two are connected because it's true, external databases reuse Wikidata. At the same time, Wikidata also uses external databases as sources. Sometimes only one of the two things happen, sometimes both. So, of course, we have a reciprocal interest in keeping a high data quality. And it can happen that, for example, a mistake is in one external database, the one on the left, then it's copied from there to Wikidata, and then another external database reuses Wikidata, and so the mistake spreads. So data reusers also have interest in good data round tripping to keep the quality of Wikidata high. So yes, it's more data quality, but I think it's of interest also of the data reusers. And when we suppress a mistake, of course, we try to suppress it not only in Wikidata, which we do first because it's easy, everyone can do it, but we try to do it also in the external databases in order to avoid it being re-imported and so on. So which are the types of mistakes? Mainly, these are the types of mistakes. The most frequent is surely a duplication. So these mistakes also happen in Wikidata, of course, but they happen also in external databases. So duplication happens when we have an entity and this entity gets 2 or more IDs in the external database or in Wikidata, but we are talking of external databases. Then we have conflations. Conflation happens when we have one ID, but this ID is about 2 or more entities which in fact should have different IDs. We can have a conflation in the entry itself. So, for example, in the same entry, we have that a certain person was a journalist and a football player, but in fact, the journalist and the football players were just two different persons. Or if we are talking of bibliographic databases, I have specifically in mind authority files. If we have an authority record, usually to the authority record, we have also many bibliographic records connected. And in this case, we can have an authority record which is fine, but some of the bibliographic records connected to it are not pertinent. And so there is a conflation, let's say, at a lower level, but still can be worrying. And we can also have wrong data. So, for example, some spelling mistakes in the name, or in the order of the parts of the name, or in the dates, for example, dates of birth, date of death, etc. We can consider mistakes also obsolete data, like, for example, saying that a person has a certain position, but the person hasn't any more this position, or saying that the person is just born, but the person also died and a death date is missing. This is not a mistake, strictly speaking, but still is something that could be improved. So I put that in brackets for this reason. So what to report? In my experience, the applications, usually I don't report them for two reasons. One is that there are so many that reporting them is very, very long. I do it sometimes, but usually I don't. And the other aspect is that the applications can be very easily found through the constraint violations in Wikidata, so they can also be automatically listed in this way. I also usually don't report obsolete data, also because they are very frequent and because they are not mistakes, strictly speaking. What I always report is the most concerning type of mistakes, so conflations. Conflations are very concerning because they mix up different entities, and also wrong data. Also wrong data like wrong death dates, wrong birth dates, very concerning. I also report them. Okay, and which are the methods of mistake reporting? Basically, we can distinguish them in two parts. We have methods of reporting externally these issues. So databases usually have one email dedicated to mistake reports. It's better when there is one email specifically for mistake reports. Sometimes it is a more generic email, but okay. Anyway, an email. Or these websites can have a web form. Some websites have a web form for all reports. Others have one web form for each entry. So for each entry, you have a button like report a mistake, and you can report a mistake specifically for this entry. We also have, in some cases, methods of mistake reporting that are internal, so inside Wikidata. In some cases, we have pages in Wikidata where we collect mistake reports. Sometimes they are also collected, for example, in the talk page of the property. And in some cases, we also have users active in Wikidata that can solve mistakes in external databases. And so we can, for example, contact them directly in their talk page and send them mistake reports. There is a page in Wikidata, a sub-page of the Wiki project Authority Control that lists some of these procedures, also tries to have a list of them for each property. And most importantly, we have a property that was also created, I think, after the Data Quality Days 2022. Now I switch to English. we have a Wikidata property which is used in the property pages to store an error report URL or email. So you can store on a property if there is a URL or an email to which mistake reports can be sent. If there is none, you can also set the property with no value. Of course, we hope that each database to which a Wikidata property refers has some way to report mistakes, but this is not always true. And so it's also interesting to have more accurate statistics about how many websites, in which fields are the websites to which we are able to report mistakes, and in which fields, in which areas we have many websites to which we are not able to report mistakes. I hear a bit of echo, maybe some microphone open, but not too much, so I go on. In the cooperation with the databases, we have also like different degrees of cooperation. I think that the most basic but very, very important one is passive correction. So the external database just receives mistake reports from Wikidata users, but also from whichever person that reads the data and solves these mistake reports. I think this is very basic but very important. We also have more advanced cooperation levels. One that is still very rare, but I think we should try to involve more the external databases. I think especially of national authority files, because for humans, mainly for humans, items about humans, national authority files are one of the most used sources to massively, but also not massively, also manually add data to Wikidata items. So having the possibility to report effectively mistakes to national authority files, at least for our items about humans that are, if I remember correctly, surely more than 10, maybe 12 million, so at least 10% of Wikidata, and a very much reused part of Wikidata, as we have also seen in the previous presentation about Open Library. So having a possibility to report mistakes to national authority files is very important. But also involving them in actively using Wikidata to find mistakes, especially duplications. lost. But honestly, I've not tried that much. So maybe it was just a case. Yes, I hope it was just a case. For href, the web form améliorer la notice is usually effective, and recently also we have a user that is able to directly solve mistakes in href, so the situation is good. The National Library of Czech Republic, there is one web form feedback, and reports are usually solved, although sometimes not so quickly, but the web form works at least. For NUCAT, Poland, basically we have no reporting method, and we have a lot of data from NUCAT, so having a reporting method would be very good. National Library of Israel, user Gea is very active in solving mistakes and receiving mistake reports, so we have a good channel of communication. National Library of France basically doesn't accept any mistake report, although there is an email, but they refuse mistakes reports basically because they don't have enough staff. They had a service to report mistakes, but it was discontinued. And this is very unfortunate because BNF is also a very used source in Wikidata. So yes, it would be good having a method, but as of now, we don't have. SBN, the email is effective, and I can also directly solve mistakes. So for SBN, you can also send mistake reports directly to me in Wikidata. And Slovenia, the collective catalog of Slovenian libraries, there is an email which is effective. And I think this is the last, the Vatican Library. Unfortunately, we have no known method of reporting mistakes to the Vatican Library. And this would be, of course, very good. But as of now, we have no method. So finally, some conclusions. Most of the analyzed authority files have at least one more or less effective method of reporting mistakes. The situation has improved a lot, I think, in the last years, although improvements are always possible. For example, often when you send reports through web forms, you have each time to add your email and other data about you. And for example, having the possibility to add this data one time and then no more would save a lot of time. So there are many possible improvements. And especially it would be very important to have a reporting methods for the databases, the authority files for which we don't have. Usually having a user, at least one user active on Wikidata improves a lot the situation, also because it makes the communication more fluid, more efficient. And having also authority files using directly Wikidata to find and correct mistakes would also improve a lot the situation, because the mistakes are a great amount, and having a first-hand and active help from libraries would help a lot. And thanks for your attention, and for whichever question, I'm here, and also on Wikidata.
Thank you very much, Camillo. Are there any questions? And as usual, you can write them in the chat if you'd prefer not to talk. There is one question, but I can read that out loud. Have you noticed any improvements with VIAF reporting since their new website/system has been released?
In fact, not. It's maybe too soon, but as of now, I almost never send. I never send mistake reports to the email of VIAF because I think it's just ineffective, and also for like more relevant emails about bugs in VIAF and so on, often they don't answer. So I just don't send mistake reports. What I've just noticed is that many things broke with the new interface. Some are recovering now after many weeks. Some still haven't recovered. So I don't see much of an improvement. Just the fact that the interface is probably more usable on mobile, but in the data maintenance, I don't see improvements, in fact. It's a bit too soon, but I don't see improvements.
Ray is also praising you for doing a great job with the presentation. And there's a link from Andy in the chat that links to
Yes.
the Wikipedia VIAF errors.
I think this page was considered obsolete. After since many years, because at some point it was said that basically OCLC said that adding mistakes here was ineffective. So the page, I think, is basically abandoned since mostly 2014. We also have a similar page on Wikidata, in fact, but basically the page is just for collecting mistakes for future generations, because as of now, we have no relationship with OCLC so that they look at the page and they use it for something. It's just to not lose completely the reports, but I'm not confident that it has a lot of meaning otherwise. Yeah, exact. OCLC is unfortunately not interested, and it wasn't 10 years ago, and it seems not right now. Which is very unfortunate. And I think it's most important to starting having more relationship with the libraries, the national libraries, which are members of VIAF, so that mainly if many of them make some pressure on OCLC, the situation could improve, but I don't see any good changes soon with VIAF. But yes, we can build a lot with the national libraries, and maybe in the medium long term, the situation could improve in this way, I hope.
More questions or thoughts on Camilo's presentation? We have a little bit more time that we can take, so we don't have to take a break now, if there's anything pressing. There's a comment that reads, I know in New Zealand, the National Library feeds into the Library of Congress data, so I'm disappointed to hear LC isn't great at dealing with errors.
Yeah, I usually don't find many mistakes in the Library of Congress, so I haven't tried a lot to send mistake reports. The 2 or 3 that I sent basically didn't receive like an initial answer. Yes, we have received your report, we will deal with it, and afterwards nothing. So, but it's a very small like experience. So I know that there is, for example, a bot that periodically makes some synchronization of data between Wikidata and the Library of Congress. So I think that maybe maybe, for example, having someone that can edit the authority file, also having an account on Wikidata and receiving mistakes through Wikidata could simplify the situation, because I perceive the procedure to send mistakes through the web form of the Library of Congress more complex than the procedure with web forms of most of the other authority files to which I've sent mistake reports. Probably also because the Library of Congress authority file is so big. Also, the online procedure is like more complex. But yeah, having someone having an account on Wikidata also capable of editing the authority file could be a good liaison, I think.
Any last questions to Camillo? Okay. If there's nothing, I'm going to say a huge thank you for the presentation and for your work and for answering the questions. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Amazing. And with that, we are basically on to the next and the last session. I'm going to hand over to Leah.
Thank you, Ifra, and hi, everyone. So we are already at the closing session of the Data Reuse Days. I hope you had a nice time, just like we did. And we're going to have a short closing session before we can move on to some Wikidata-based games. So let's get started. All right, I will start by thanking my colleagues, Lydia, Ifra, and Alan. Alan is not there, but we're saying hi from a distance. He's been facilitating very professionally a lot of our sessions. And I would love to hear from you, first of all, if you want to write down a message in the chat, what you're taking away from this event, what caught your attention, if there is a session in particular that you found really interesting, some discussions, if there's anything that was inspiring or that you learned from that could have an impact on the work that you're doing, for example. I would love to hear from you in the chat. And while you're writing, Lydia, do you want to share with us what you took away from the event? Yes, we can hear you. No? Yes, no. We can hear you now.
Okay, because it's telling me.
No. You're totally hearable.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, so the event was great, and I'm really happy that we've put together so many sessions. I'm having a hard time picking a favorite one, but I would say for me the coolest was seeing all the showcases, to see all the amazing applications that people are building, and the live coding sessions with the REST API and Snowman, because it was really cool to see something coming together in a short time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So, yeah, I will take the opportunity to thank all the speakers that contributed to the event. We had more than 30 people who presented something during the 9 days of the event and 28th session. As usual, the mood was really nice during the event, and people have been discussing in the chat and answering each other's question. So thank you, as usual, for being awesome, I would say. Now, a little bit about documentation. So most sessions have been broadcasted to YouTube and recorded. And you can find all the links to the videos from the program page. And we also made a playlist out of it, where you can binge watch if you want all the sessions from the event. We will also upload the videos in due time and separate it by session to Wikimedia Commons in the upcoming weeks. And they will be added to the Commons category. In the category, by the way, you can already find some of the short videos that some speakers had recorded prior to the event. So you can already rewatch that. And we also have a category for the slides where some speakers already added their slides. So we know that's been a lot of content, and you were not necessarily able to follow everything live. So feel free to watch it at your own time. The videos don't go anywhere. And we also encourage you to share them with your local community, whether it is the organization in which you're working or your local regional community. Anyone you think could be interested by one session or another. Also, when the videos will be uploaded to Wikimedia Commons, there will be the possibility to add some captions in English and also in other languages. So you're very welcome to help with that if you're interested. Now, we are very interested to know what you thought of the event. What was your experience? This is always helpful for us to improve the format of our events. So feel free to fill in the form. It's going to take just a few minutes from your time, and make sure you do it in the upcoming 2 weeks, so until March 16, so we can gather the results. The link, we're sharing it in the Jitsi chat right now, but it will also be sent to everyone who registered for the event, and will be added also to the event page on Wikidata, so you are also able to find it later if you want. Another thing that you could do if you are interested is to join our research pool. So basically, if you're interested in testing features from Wikidata, but also Wikipedia, you could join this list, and basically you would be contacted by Wikimedia Deutschland's UX team whenever there is something to test that needs your input. So feel free to add your data there. And if you are new to Wikidata and the community, I encourage you to join our community channels, because this is where all the discussions happening and where you can stay up to date on what's going on with Wikidata. So there is the Wikidata Telegram group that some of you are certainly already part of. And you can find on the contact page all the Wikidata community channel. So we have the project chats on Wiki, we have a mailing list. I encourage you to subscribe to the newsletter that you can receive on your Wiki page. And we have various social media accounts that you can follow. And finally, I'm very happy to announce that we are already planning our upcoming online event. And it has a connection with this one, because I don't know if you noticed, but in the program, we didn't talk about how the sister projects, Wikipedia, Commons, etc., reuse Wikidata, although this is a huge part of Wikidata. And that was because it's going to have its dedicated event, Wikidata and the sister projects, that will take place on the weekend from May 29th to June 1st. There's already a Wiki page, and you can already sign up in the same way that you maybe you did for this event. So yeah, feel free to sign up already to receive updates. So this is now the end of our little closing session, but we're not done just yet. Just after I finish talking, basically, we are gonna stop the live stream on YouTube. So if you're watching us from YouTube, now would be a really good moment to join us on Jitsi instead. You can find the link from the event page after registering, because we're gonna play some Wikidata-based games for the next hour or so. And tomorrow, if you're interested in rewatching some videos together with other people, we schedule 2 sessions that are very like self-organized. This is basically joining the Jitsi room where some of us are right now. If there are other people there deciding on a video that we would like to watch it together, discuss. We have 2 slots of 1 hour during the day of February 28th. So feel free to join if you want to hang out with the participants a little bit more. That's it from me. Thank you very much for attending the Data Reuse Days, and see you soon at the upcoming events. We can now